Hi, everyone. All right, so this week we are going to be taking a look at lesson 13 in your Ready Reading. What are stories made of? Today we will be looking at pages 214, 215, 216, 217, and 220. So, in this lesson, we're going to talk about how the parts of stories are organized and how they build on each other. So, let's remember what it is that we've already learned about story structure or narrative structure. Remember that narratives have characters that solve problems in a setting. The problem is often introduced in the beginning of the story or the narrative, and it builds through the middle, and then it ends with a resolution or when the problem is resolved. So let's think about a really popular children's story for a moment entitled The Three Little Pigs. And so let's review the structure of that story. What problem do the little pigs have? Well, of course, the little pigs have to venture out on their own in the world to take care of themselves. And in the middle of the story, we learn how the pigs try to solve their problem. What do the pigs do? And so, of course, each of them build a different house. But there is a big bad wolf who keeps trying to get in to their houses. And in the end, we learn how the pigs solve their problem. So, what do? And of course, they get rid of the big bad wolf. Each part of the story has a different purpose. The middle builds on the beginning, and the end builds on the middle. So, please take a look here at the learning target on page 214. And it says, knowing how parts of a story are organized can help you better understand how events and ideas connect and build on each other. So, when you read stories, especially long ones that have been divided into chapters, stop after reading each part and ask yourself how the events in that part add to the part before it. This will help you better understand the story. And so, please, for a moment, relate to what we've talked about so far to the writing that we are doing, our narrative writing. Remember, we talked about our large watermelon idea, which of course would be our story, and then our seed idea, our smaller moment, which would be a chapter in our story. So, let's now take a look at where it says read. It says all stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. To make longer stories easier to read, authors often divide them into parts or sections. The sections are called chapters. Every chapter adds new events and information to the story. So let's look at this table of contents and chapter summaries from the book What They Found on Planet Z. So, in this orange chapter 1, it says a great discovery. Scientists have learned there are living creatures on the newly discovered planet Z. In chapter 2, where it's blue, it says meeting the aliens. The scientists travel to planet Z but cannot figure out how to talk to the aliens. And in the yellow chapter 3, it says mind talk. The scientists and the aliens from Planet Z learn they can understand each other when their heads touch. So, look again at the summaries. How do these chapters build on each other? So, in going to page 215, where it says think, it says reread the chapter titles and summaries, then finish the chart below to see how the chapters build on each other. So this organizer, of course, is showing chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. So you need to use details from the table of contents, from what they found on Planet Z to complete this organizer in your breakout groups. And then we are going to discuss it. So we'll pause the video and we'll come together for just a moment. We will fill out page 215 and then we will continue on. All right, so we are going to continue on to page 216. And we are now going to read the first of 2 chapters of a realistic story. And so I am going to read it to you as you follow along so that you can better understand what this story is about. And as I am reading, please place a check mark or identify any confusing words or phrases that need to be clarified. And remember, when we are looking at words that are confusing to us, make sure that you are looking inside, around, and beyond these unfamiliar words to help you figure out what they mean. So again, I am on page 216, and I'm going to read as you follow along. And as I am reading, I would like you to keep 2 questions in mind right now. The first one is, who is Jillian? Who is Jillian? And the second question is, what events caused Jillian to tear down the posters? Okay, who is Jillian and what events caused Jillian to tear down the posters? And before you even begin listening to the story, take a look at the picture. Can you predict what this story is going to be about by looking at this picture? Okay, friends, this is entitled Keeping the Lost Dog Lost by Siri Johnson. And we are going to start here where it says chapter 1, Finding a Lost Dog. 3 weeks ago, I found a lost dog on my way home from school. Mom and I couldn't figure out whom he belonged to, so we called him Mystery. There was no mystery, though, about what happened next. I fell in love with the dog and started hoping that he could stay with us forever. Then one night, Mom sat down next to me and said, Jillian, what if we can't find Mystery's owner? Do you think you're ready to become a pet owner? I said, yes, yes, of course. But then a darker thought crept into my brain. What if we do find the owner? Chapter 2, Mystery's Real Name. The next day, I was taking Mystery for a walk when I spotted, tacked to a telephone pole, a poster with a picture of a lost dog on it. I thought, oh no, it can't be. But there was no question. It was Mystery, or I should say, Barney, because it seemed that was his real name. Are you Barney? I asked, and he barked 3 times, wagging his tail happily. Then we walked all over the neighborhood, and I tore down 10 more posters from 10 more poles. I knew that what I was doing was selfish and wrong, but I couldn't bear to lose Barney. Okay, let's take a look at page 217. How does the second chapter of Keeping the Lost Dog Lost build on the first one? And so, of course, there's a chart here. Finish the chart with details from the story that help you understand Jillian's problem. So, chapter 1, Finding a Lost Dog. And of course, chapter 2, Mystery's Real Name. And you are going to be providing details from each of those chapters to help you understand Julian's problem. The think bubble to the right says the beginning of a story usually introduces the main characters and a problem. The next chapters build on that problem. Okay? And then you are going to, on page 220, write a short response to this. Explain the problem Julian faces in chapter 2. Use the space provided on page 220 to write your answer. Here's a hint. Why does Julian tear down the posters even though she knows doing it is wrong? And again, that short response is going to go here on page 220. And these are activities you will be doing in your breakout groups. We're going to come together for any last minute questions before we get to work.